Before money, people used to trade goods and services directly. This was called bartering. Bartering was a system where people exchanged what they had for what they needed. Imagine wanting a new pair of shoes but only having chickens to trade. You'd have to find someone who not only had the shoes you wanted, but also wanted your chickens in return. You'd have to find someone who wanted chickens and was willing to trade their shoes for them. It was quite complicated. This process was time-consuming and often frustrating. As societies grew, bartering became inefficient. The larger the community, the harder it was to find perfect matches for trades. People needed a more practical system. They needed something that everyone would accept in exchange for goods and services. This is where money came in. Early forms of money included items like shells, beads, and other small valuable objects. Money acted as a common medium of exchange. It simplified transactions by providing a standard value for goods and services. Instead of bartering for each item, people could use money to buy and sell goods easily. This made trade more efficient and less time-consuming.
All right, ready to dive into some personal finance?
Let's do it.
Today we're looking at I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Yeah, a classic for a reason.
It's basically a personal finance boot camp, right?
Definitely. Actionable steps, no nonsense advice, perfect for anyone just starting out. Or even if you've been at it a while, there's always something to learn.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things Sethi really emphasizes? What are the big takeaways?
Well, he tackles a lot of common financial myths head on. Like, he really understands that for most people, money management is more about psychology than spreadsheets.
Right. It's about forming good habits and making smart choices consistently.
Exactly. And one of the key areas he focuses on is credit. He says good credit can be a secret weapon, whether you're buying a home or even just getting a better deal on a car loan.
I can see that. Good credit opens so many doors.
It really does. And he shows you how to build that good credit. He has a whole section on optimizing your credit cards.
Okay, so what kind of things are we talking about here?
Well, first off, he explains just how much money you can save over time with a good credit score. Like, he uses the example of a $200,000 mortgage. The difference between a good and a bad credit score can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings over the life of the loan.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Right. So it really pays to pay attention to your credit. And then he gives you specific tactics for improving your score.
Like what? Give me an example.
Something as simple as calling your credit card company and negotiating a lower APR.
Oh, wow. So just picking up a phone and asking.
Yep, that's all it takes sometimes. He says to leverage your good customer history, and you might be surprised how much they're willing to budge.
I've heard of people having success with that, but I've always been a little intimidated to try it myself.
He actually provides scripts in the book that you can use, word for word.
Really? That's awesome. Okay, so that's negotiating a lower APR. What other credit card tips does he have?
He talks about increasing your available credit, especially if you're debt-free.
Wait, really? I thought closing unused cards was good for your credit score.
It's a common misconception. He explains that by increasing your available credit, you actually improve your credit utilization rate, which is a big factor in your score.
Oh, I see. So it's like the less of your available credit you're using, the better it looks to lenders.
Exactly. He also cautions against using retail cards because they often have sky-high interest rates and all sorts of hidden fees.
Yeah, those can be tempting, but the terms are usually terrible.
He even has a whole section on disputing charges, using your credit card protections, and taking advantage of extended warranties.
Okay, so he really covers all the bases with credit cards. It sounds like he wants people to feel empowered to use them wisely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wants you to understand the rules of the game so you can play it to your advantage. And he applies that same philosophy to bank accounts.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, he exposes how much money banks make off of things like overdraft fees.
Don't even get me started on those. They're ridiculous.
I know, right? He breaks down their strategy, and it's basically like they're hoping you'll slip up and get hit with those charges.
So what's the solution? How do we avoid getting nickeled and dimed by the banks?
Sethi suggests we ditch the traditional big banks and embrace online savings accounts that offer higher interest rates.
Okay, that makes sense. Higher interest means more money in your pocket, right?
Exactly. And online banks tend to have fewer fees in general.
So, online savings for the win. But what about checking accounts? Do those even matter anymore?
He thinks they do. He suggests using a high-interest online checking account for deposits and bill payments and linking it to a credit card for rewards.
Okay, so a two-pronged approach.
He even recommends a specific account, the Schwab Bank Investor Checking Account. No fees, high interest rate, and even overdraft protection.
Sounds like a pretty sweet deal. So we've got our high-yield savings and checking accounts in place. What's next on Sethi's financial roadmap?
Well, that's where his conscious spending plan comes in. It's his alternative to traditional budgeting.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this conscious spending plan.
He argues that most people fail to track their spending diligently, so budgets just end up making them feel guilty.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've tried budgeting before, but I always end up feeling restricted and frustrated.
Exactly. So Sethi focuses on identifying what he calls big wins.
Big wins. What does he mean by that?
Areas of your spending where you can make significant savings without feeling deprived.
Okay, so it's about being strategic rather than restrictive. I like that.
And he's all about focusing on the things that bring you joy. He even tells a story about a guy he calls the partier, who consciously spends $21,000 a year on going out because it brings him immense happiness.
$21,000 on going out. That's dedication.
Right. But the point is, he's happy with his choices, and he's saving in other areas that aren't as important to him.
I love that. It's about aligning your spending with your values.
Exactly. And for the areas that aren't as important, Sethi encourages a more ruthless approach.
Ruthless, huh? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, he recommends what he calls the a la carte method, which involves replacing subscriptions with paying only for what you use.
Oh, that's interesting. Give me an example.
He talks about gym memberships. For a lot of people, pay-as-you-go passes can be more cost-effective, especially if you're not a hardcore gym rat.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's about being more mindful and intentional with every dollar you spend.
Exactly. He also talks about using tools like Mint to track your spending and make sure you're staying within your conscious spending plan.
That's a great idea. I've heard good things about Mint. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already, from optimizing credit cards and bank accounts to implementing Sethi's conscious spending plan.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know. There's so much more to explore, like investing.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
And I can't wait to dive into that and more in the next part of our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Welcome back. Are you ready to tackle investing?
You bet. I've always felt like investing was this big mystery, but Sethi promises to demystify it, right?
He does. And one of the best things he does is he debunks that myth that you need to be picking stocks to be a successful investor.
Oh, yeah, like you need to be some kind of Wall Street whiz kid to even get started.
Exactly. He actually advocates for a more passive approach using index funds.
Index funds. Okay, I've heard of those, but remind me what's so great about them.
Well, think of them as like baskets of stocks that track a specific market index like the S&P 500.
Okay, so instead of trying to pick individual winners, which is like basically impossible.
Right, exactly. With index funds, you're essentially investing in the whole market.
So you're riding the wave of overall growth, but without all the guesswork and risk of picking individual stocks.
Exactly. And the fees are way lower than actively managed funds.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like built-in diversification, right?
Yes. Diversification is super important. That's another key principle Sethi emphasizes.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Haha, exactly. And asset allocation goes hand in hand with that.
Asset allocation, so like spreading your investments across different asset classes.
Exactly, like stocks, bonds, real estate, things like that.
Okay, so how does Sethi recommend going about that?
He offers a couple of options. If you want a hands-off approach, he suggests life cycle funds. Those automatically adjust your asset allocation as you get closer to retirement.
Interesting. And if you want more control, you can build your own portfolio with index funds that track different asset classes.
Exactly. It really depends on your comfort level and how much you want to be involved.
Okay, I'm liking this already. It feels way less intimidating than I thought.
Right. And Sethi even shares a model portfolio inspired by David Swensen, the guy who manages the Yale Endowment.
Wow, so like tried and true strategies from the pros.
He's all about long-term growth and smart diversification. But he also recognizes that investing isn't just about growing your money for retirement.
Yeah, there are those more immediate financial hurdles we all face.
Like negotiating a salary.
Ugh, yes. That's always a nerve-wracking experience. Sethi has advice for that, too.
He does. He says most of us undervalue ourselves, especially when it comes to salary negotiations.
So it's about knowing your worth and being confident in asking for what you deserve.
Exactly. He wants us to shift our mindset and see it as a collaboration rather than a confrontation.
So it's about finding a win-win solution for both sides.
Right. He gives all sorts of tips on researching salaries, quantifying your accomplishments, and even practicing your negotiation skills.
Practicing. Like, how do you practice for a salary negotiation?
He says you can practice by haggling at a flea market or negotiating a lower cable bill.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's like building those negotiation muscles in a low-stakes environment.
Exactly. And once you've mastered those salary negotiations, he'll even help you with buying a car.
Oh, man. Car salespeople can be intimidating.
He recommends a service called Fighting Chance, which will equip you with all the best negotiation tactics and help you find the best deals.
That sounds awesome. I'm going to have to check that out.
He also talks about the importance of research, knowing your budget, and being prepared to walk away if the deal isn't right.
It's about being in control of the situation.
Exactly. And he goes beyond just the practical tips. He talks about the psychology of money, how our beliefs about money can affect our financial decisions.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all got some baggage there.
Right. Like maybe you grew up believing that rich people are greedy or that money is the root of all evil.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely heard those messages before.
He wants us to challenge those beliefs and create a new, more empowering money narrative for ourselves.
Is it like changing the way we think and feel about money?
Yes. He suggests practicing gratitude for what we have, visualizing our financial goals, and surrounding ourselves with people who have a healthy relationship with money.
Okay, so it's like a holistic approach to financial well-being. It's not just about the numbers, it's about our mindset too.
Exactly. And he even talks about the importance of discussing money with your significant other.
Oh, yeah. That can be a tough conversation.
He encourages couples to be open and honest about their financial goals, to create a shared budget, and to make decisions together.
Communication is key, right?
Absolutely. He really stresses that it's a team effort. And then, of course, he talks about one of the biggest financial decisions most people face, buying a house.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
He breaks down the entire process from getting pre-approved for a mortgage to negotiating the best deal.
Does he address all those hidden costs that can come up with buying a house? Like repairs and maintenance, property taxes, things like that?
Oh, yeah, he talks about all of that.
Yeah.
He wants you to go into homeownership with your eyes wide open, understanding both the rewards and the potential challenges.
So it's not just about getting caught up in the excitement of buying a house. It's about being prepared for what comes after.
Exactly. And just like with car buying, he emphasizes the importance of negotiating during the home buying process.
Okay, so it seems like negotiating is a recurring theme in Sethi's book.
It is. He wants us to be informed and empowered consumers, no matter what we're buying. And he doesn't just focus on buying a house. He also talks about other major life events, like getting married, having children, or even starting a business.
So he's basically a financial guide for every stage of life.
I think that's a great way to put it. His advice is timeless and adaptable, and he really encourages readers to be lifelong learners when it comes to money.
It's not about reaching a destination, but about being on a journey of continuous financial growth and well-being. This has been so helpful. What stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway from I Will Teach You to Be Rich?
For me, it's the emphasis on being proactive and intentional with your finances, creating a system that works for you, and not being afraid to negotiate and ask for what you deserve.
I love that. It's about taking control of your financial destiny. Now, before we move on to the last part, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. What are some financial myths or limiting beliefs that have held you back? And how have you challenged those beliefs to create a new money narrative for yourself? Think about that, and we'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive. Back again for part 3. We've talked about getting our finances in order, but I feel like there's another piece of the puzzle.
I bet I know what you're thinking. Giving back.
Bingo. It's one thing to build wealth for ourselves.
But using it to make a difference, that's where it really gets meaningful.
Right, absolutely. And Sethi doesn't shy away from that at all in the book.
No, he really emphasizes that giving back is part of living a rich life.
He wants us to think bigger, to use our resources to support causes we care about. It's about more than just our own needs.
He even takes it a step further.
Oh, how so?
He suggests making charitable giving a part of your actual spending plan.
Like allocating a percentage of your income specifically for donations.
Exactly. Just like you would for any other expense. Makes it a habit.
I love that. Takes the guesswork out of it. So what causes does Sethi recommend supporting?
He doesn't tell you what to support, more about how to choose.
Makes sense. So How do we choose the right causes?
Find organizations that resonate with your values, something you truly care about. Could be animal welfare, education, the environment, anything.
It's about making those donations count, knowing they're going towards something meaningful to you.
He encourages doing your research, too.
Oh, right. Make sure the charity is legitimate.
Transparency with their finances, that your money is being used effectively.
Be strategic with your giving, just like with investing. But it's not always about money, is it?
Not at all. Giving back can take so many forms. Volunteering your time, even.
Like at a soup kitchen or mentoring someone, something like that?
Exactly. It could be sharing your skills or just being kind and compassionate in your everyday life.
Those small acts can make a big difference, too.
Sethi's point is that we all have something to offer. And sometimes those contributions are even more valuable than money.
Because it comes from the heart, right? It's about genuine care.
I think Sethi's message about giving back is so important. It's a reminder that financial success isn't just about personal gain.
Yeah, it's about using your wealth to make the world a better place, even in a small way. It's about that ripple effect.
When you lift others up, you end up lifting yourself up, too.
And that brings a whole other level of richness to our lives, wouldn't you say?
I completely agree. It's about aligning your wealth with your values, leaving a legacy beyond yourself.
Beautifully put. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
It's been a great discussion.
So many insightful takeaways from Ramit Sethi.
Practical advice, inspiring strategies, something for everyone.
Remember, folks, it's not about getting rich quick. It's about building a sustainable system that works for you.
And using your resources to make a positive impact on the world.
Whether that's through charitable giving or simply by being a kind and generous human being.
Exactly. So go out there, conquer those financial goals, and don't forget to share the wealth.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for that rich life in every sense of the word.